Welcome to the Hello Sunday podcast with me, Nikki Hayden. This is the podcast that discusses everything self-development, spirituality and sobriety. And it wouldn't be me without a little sprinkling of humour. Whether you are just starting out on your journey of self-development or have been exploring these topics for years, are completely alcohol-free or just curious about living a more sober lifestyle, this is the podcast for you. Each week, I'll be exploring topics in both solo episodes and with some amazing guest experts. So if you like what you hear, then please subscribe, rate and review. So with that said, let's dive into today's episode. Hello, welcome to the first episode of Hello Sunday. Now, before I start, I just need to add that I'm not a medical professional in any way, shape or form. And if you are alcohol dependent or think that you may be, then please do consult a medical practitioner before giving up alcohol. So this is the very first episode of my brand new podcast. And I think today would just be a really good time to just introduce you to the topics and the concepts of what the podcast is going to be about, give you a little bit of context as to how it came about, a little bit about me, and then from the next episode we will be diving into some of these topics. As I mentioned in the intros, some of them are going to be solo episodes just with me and my dulcet tones in your ears, and some of them I will be inviting expert guests to join me to talk about various topics, things that maybe I've not got as much experience in, or people are further along in their journey, or maybe earlier in their journey. But yeah, each week is going to be something slightly different. And also, if you have any suggestions, any ideas, anything that you want us to potentially discuss, then please do drop an email to hellosundaypod@outlook.com. So, sobriety, self-development, spirituality, sprinkling of humour, it's all going to be in there. So what is self-development? I think it's a really good place to start because it's such a wide topic and something that I think is bandied about so freely these days, as a phrase, that it'd be useful just to understand what that means in the context of this podcast, and really just to understand a little bit more about the types of topics that we might be covering. So I guess self-development for me is working on yourself. It's working on your growth. So things like boundary setting, understanding your limiting beliefs, potentially working on things like confidence, patience, your attachment style. Essentially, it's anything that betters you as a person and your mental growth and development. Now, I first got into self-development quite a few years ago now. I think I've always had quite an interest in psychology and the human mind and why we behave the way that we do. I did psychology at A-level and I've always just had, a really sort of keen interest and passion in those sort of areas. However, I think most people that I speak to generally from all walks of life will tell you that there was probably a point in their life that I guess kind of triggered that self-development journey, something that really doesn't have to be a rock bottom, but I think a lot of people probably would describe it as a rock bottom, or just something that kind of makes you think, okay, how can I develop? How can I grow? How can I look into these patterns, these behaviors? And for me, it was very much relationship focused. I had a very stable, loving childhood, really, enjoyed school and all my formative years. And it was only really when I started having more serious relationships, I guess, in kind of my later teens and certainly into my 20s, where I guess my kind of rock bottom hit, or my my journey started due to things that were kind of triggered during those times. So I think really the first thing for me was when my first marriage broke down. So I got married at 27, and that broke down sort of 18 months after we got married. And that did, I guess it kind of did trigger me wanting to look into self-development and wanting to understand a bit more about myself. But I guess at that point, whilst I know that we've all got, a huge responsibility to look at our input into the situation, and what we did to enable that situation. I think at the time I probably wasn't quite there in terms of the self-reflection, and it took a couple more shitty relationships for me to get there and to hit that rock bottom. So that happened. I then had another couple of really tumultuous relationships, some really toxic behavior, probably from both sides, to be honest, both parties, but definitely hit a rock bottom in kind of, I'd say, sort of September, October 2018. And just by chance, one of my friends messaged me and said, hey, I'm going to be doing a networking event. It's a kind of a manifesting workshop, and just really a chance for, like-minded people to get together, but it's in Liverpool. So I thought, you know what, I'm not doing anything else that weekend. So I jumped at the chance. And then I got another friend to join me, and we went to Liverpool, and we had the most amazing day, and just really kind of, I don't know, it just instilled in me the fact that there was a lot of work to be done and a lot of reflection to do, and that actually there was a whole world open to me to explore in terms of, I guess, understanding myself, but also kind of loving myself a bit more. I think it kind of made me realize, or it was the first insight into the fact that I might have been allowing the, behavior of the people in my life and the relationships in my life because I didn't really have enough self-love and self-respect. And that probably came from the marriage breakdown, to be honest. I think, tracing it back, there's probably a lot to be said for the rejection, and then the way that you kind of turn to, I guess, just blaming yourself and looking at, thinking that what did you do wrong? So at this day in Liverpool, there was an absolutely phenomenal lady there doing a talk, a lady called Gina Swire. And she was holding a retreat. So at that point, she was actually living in Bali, and she was holding a retreat that was going to be in Bali. And the amount that the retreat was going to cost was exactly the amount that I had in my savings. And I just thought, you know what, this is something that I really, really want to do. And so I spoke to her and I said, look, I really do want to come, but, I'm going to be on my own. So is that a thing? Do people come on their own? And she said, yeah, of course, absolutely. There'll be loads of people there on their own. In fact, more people probably come alone than, come together. So yeah, why don't you sort of get in touch with the other girls? I'm going to set up a WhatsApp group. Anyway, long story short, I ended up going on the Bali retreat. It was one of the best decisions I've ever made. I made one of my best friends on that retreat. We're still in touch to this very day. And it just was the start of that journey for me. And I've since done further retreats with Gina in Ibiza. I've done her coaching workshops. I've done, loads and loads of different kind of workshops and retreats with various people since that. But that was the real beginning of my journey into self-development and looking at my behavior, my boundaries, the limiting beliefs that I had as a result of various experiences in my life, and really what kind of gave me a passion for this sort of work and these sort of topics. So fast forward, what year are we in now? 2023, so 5 years. And well, actually, no, it was 2022 when I made the decision to start my own business. I'd actually been working in recruitment for about sort of 12, 13 years at that point. And I'd really wanted to start my own business for quite a while. I guess just like most people within kind of the pandemic, got used to working from home, really enjoyed the flexibility, didn't enjoy so much being back in an office environment, knew that I'd got the right level of experience to kind of set up on my own. So really wanted to make that leap. But I knew in my heart of hearts that there was one thing in my life, despite doing all this self-development, despite doing all of the deep dive into, understanding my own patterns, my own behaviors, my own habits, there was one thing in my life that I knew was going to be not necessarily a blocker, but definitely something that I needed to address and look at. And that was the weekend drinking. Now, most of us in British culture that have grown up, in the UK will probably have grown up around drinking. So whether you're a big drinker now yourself or not, you'll probably have grown up around people that were big drinkers or are big drinkers. I know, my family, my dad in particular, has always been quite a big drinker. It's just, British culture, isn't it? And you look at our European neighbours, and actually none of them particularly drink in the same way that we do. They all enjoy alcohol with their meals, but when you think of Brits abroad and stuff like that, it's a bit of an embarrassment, and it's all down to binge drinking. And that was me. That was my classic pattern of drinking behaviour. I never really drank in the week, and I never really had any sort of dependency issues or any issues with, stopping drinking or limiting my drinking. But as soon as I started at the weekend, whether that was just going to the pub for a few, whether it was going out for dinner with friends, or whether it was a proper night out, it was always something that was really difficult then to stop. And I would always drink until I either embarrassed myself or, the hangover the next day was absolutely horrific. Sometimes it would get to blackout where chunks of my night would go missing. And then it would waste the whole of my Sunday and, half of the weekend where you're meant to be recuperating, refreshing, planning for the week ahead so you can have a good week, which I guess you can kind of get away with in employment a little bit. But when it's just you and it's going to be, everything's on you, your own business, it just, for me, was something that I knew that I couldn't go into this year and this business venture still with the same patterns of drinking behavior every single weekend. So in December 2022, I made the decision that from January the 1st this year, I was going to go 100 days sober. Now, I'm actually in a group. There's a group of friends and myself in a WhatsApp group, and we've done it for, I think, about the last 4 years now, where we do 2 100-day challenges each year. And the first one normally starts at the beginning of the year. So for me, it was one of the goals that I set myself at the start of the 100-day challenge. Now, interestingly, I didn't actually share that goal with the group until halfway through the challenge. I think because I'd still got a real doubt in my mind that I was going to be able to do it. I didn't want people to be, disappointed in me, I guess. And I didn't want to be disappointed in myself. So I actually kept the goal really close to my chest. Now my birthday is in January, so I did my birthday meal sober. It's obviously probably a bit easier to do that time of the year, and I know a lot of people do dry January anyway because there's not a huge amount going on. But even so, I didn't really share that goal with the group, but I did it. I did the 100 days, and it completely changed my life. It completely changed every single aspect of my life. There wasn't a single area of my life that didn't improve from doing that 100 days sober. So I guess when I was doing the 100 days and since then, and don't get me wrong, I've not been completely sober since then. I think, the Maybank holidays this year did lure me in. But actually having had a couple of drinking occasions since then and not particularly enjoying it, certainly definitely not enjoying the hangovers afterwards. And actually they've probably got worse since I abstained at the start of the year. So since then, I've been listening to loads of podcasts, loads of quit lit, so reading and listening to books by people that have gone sober, listening to people's stories. The one common thing that I was finding, though, was that a lot of these stories and a lot of the literature and the podcasts were great, don't get me wrong, and really inspirational. But a lot of them were based around and based upon and more angled towards people that have had a really serious alcohol addiction or dependency, people that had hit rock bottom, stories of losing jobs and families and being hospitalized. And, whilst those stories are ridiculously inspirational and I can completely and utterly be inspired and, want to listen to that type of literature and those sorts of podcasts, for me, it just wasn't meeting me at the level that I was at. And so this is how Hello Sunday was born. So I was talking to some friends about it and I was just thinking, there must be other people out there like me. I'm in Facebook groups. I'm in I follow people on Instagram, on socials, various different sober accounts. And actually, I think there's probably quite a few people out there like me who are sober curious, which I guess by definition is more, it's having a curiosity around what a sober lifestyle looks like and exploring a life without alcohol or limiting your alcohol consumption. So to me, that means drinking more consciously, the occasions where I have gone out and drank, not just drinking like I would have done before, having soft drinks in between, and actually just being a lot more conscious about alcohol, which in turn has actually made me, want to abstain a lot more. And the name Hello Sunday actually came about because I guess that's what it's given me back. It's given me back my Sundays. So not only has it given me back my Sundays from the perspective of, no hangovers and just having that kind of productivity and wanting to get up and crack on with things, but also it's given me, I guess there's a little bit of a cliche around, self-care Sundays, but that's exactly how I treat Sundays now. They're a day to sometimes get stuff done, life admin, get shit done that you just need to get out of the way before the week starts. But sometimes they can just be really slow, lying in bed, eating breakfast and drinking coffee until 10, 11 a.m., going for walks and not wasting that day, not wasting, what is such a day of rest, recuperation and just getting things on track for the week. So Hello Sunday seemed like a fitting name. And I was initially just going to do it as a sober curious podcast, but actually I've got so many areas and so many passions around self-development and, touching on spirituality and neuroscience. And I just thought, why not just put it all in there? Why not? I'm sure there's loads of people out there like me that are on their self-development journey, are exploring sobriety as part of that, because essentially, the more that you delve into this work, the more that you realize that alcohol just does not go hand in hand with personal growth. And the amount of people that I've spoken to and the stories that I've heard about people either quitting or cutting down on alcohol and then having these massive growths in terms of maybe success and goal achievement. And, that could be financial, it could be relationships. Like I said earlier, every single aspect and area of my life vastly improved when I gave up alcohol. My skin improved, my sleep improved, my relationship with my husband improved. I was able to, be switched on at work. My productivity improved. As a result, my finances improved. There just wasn't any area that didn't, essentially. So that's why I'm going to bring this to you. And like I said at the start, sometimes you're just going to have to put up with me. And my dulcet tones and the topics that I want to explore and discuss. It might be something that's come up that week. It might be something that somebody's asked me to talk about. As I mentioned, the emails and also the Instagram, actually, it's at Hello Sunday Pod, are always open for suggestions and for, ideas, topics. At the end of the day, this is your podcast, so I want to be giving the content and just discovering and talking about and discussing the topics that are important to you guys. So please do get involved. Please do let me know what you'd like me to talk about. I'm going to be trying to find some really, really exciting guests as well that can talk about all of the above. So, all of the areas of self-development and of being sober curious, sobriety, and personal growth. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited to see where this goes. I mean, for me, it's just an absolute passion project, and I think it's something that I've wanted to do for a long time. And I guess there was an element of fear there, to be honest. It's quite tough putting yourself out there, and I guess you're always open for judgment and, ridicule and everything. But at the end of the day, I know that, your vibe attracts your tribe, and the people that are meant to hear this and the people that are meant to, I guess, join me on this journey will do. And, if it's not for you, it's not for you. But yeah, thank you so much for joining the first episode, and I will look forward to coming into your ears for episode 2 very soon. Thanks for listening. You can find us on Instagram at Hello Sunday Pod, or you can email us on hellosundaypod@outlook.com. Have a great week.